to win with. So a really important bit of kit there. Now, this T-34, one of the reactions it's to is of course some of that bigger German stuff being used in places like the Panther, the Tiger. Now we've got some heavy German armour. I'm going to hand over to Chris.
Thank you, David. Well, without sounding facile, you've seen some wonderful, wonderful tanks already today. But for a lot of you, I suspect this is the moment you have been waiting for. I don't think our secret that we've been keeping for the last few weeks is safe. So we have today not one Tiger, but two for you. We have got Tiger 131, our own, and we also have the King Tiger, the Königs Tiger, Tiger 2 from our friends at Saumur, the Musée de Brittany, the French Army Museum. Now, looking at King Tiger to start with, the Königs Tiger, that is a beast of a machine. That weighs 68 tons. The armour on the front is 150mm thick. It's also sloped back at 50 degrees. Now, ultimately, since they didn't need Tiger 1, they've learned from investments. Tiger 2, they have copied the T-34 that you've already seen. T-34 and also used much the same design of the Panther, so the armour is sloped. That front plate is sloped back at 50 degrees. That means two things. Firstly, it increases the line of sight thickness, so putting a round through that is just about impossible. It also massively increases the possibility of a ricochet. So Königs Tiger is massively well armoured. You want some proof of this? Go and have a look at our King Tiger in the museum. Have a look around the side and you'll see the impact of two 75mm armour-piercing rounds. They have ricocheted off, they've done hardly anything. And that is the sponsor, that's the side arm. So if you're in an allied tank, knocking out King Tiger is going to be just about impossible. Now when it comes to armament, that is the KWK 43 L71 gun. It's 88mm, so it's the same caliber as that of Tiger 1, but it is a longer barrel and a much bigger cartridge, much more amount of propellant behind it. If I put that in simple terms, if it really tries, that can put a round through the frontal armour of Sherman or T-34, a range of that is a massive, heavy gun. Crew of 5 degrees deep. Serviceability of a King Tiger, probably around about 59%. With something like the Sherman, with a much better logistic chain, lots of training and maintenance, it's more like 80%. So a tank that's out of action an awful lot of the time is really not going to do you a lot of good. Now the predecessor to the King Tiger is of course Tiger 1. Now, look over there. This is a wonderful moment. This is the first time, probably since the end of World War II, that King Tiger, Tiger 1, we've got our lovely little Panzer III there. It's the first time these two Tigers have actually run together. So that is massive one. Now, we already talked about the King Tiger. But Tiger 1 wasn't too shabby either. They're both what's called durable style. They are both heavy breakthrough tanks. So, Tiger 1 and Tiger 2, they're both classified the same. They're both what we call Dirkborg style. They're both heavy breakthrough tanks. Now, this is a concept that goes back to the mid-1930s, 1935. And the idea is, it is a heavy tank that will punch a hole in the enemy lines that can then be exploited by lighter armour, like the Panzer III that's bringing up the rest of the line here. A mishmash of designs and potential. The turret comes from Krupp. It's designed for a Porsche tank, but they put it all together and they've got Tiger 1. And that enters the fray in 1942 on the Eastern Front and later in North Africa. Now, Tiger 1 is superb in itself. It's got 100mm armour on the front, and although the Tiger 1 88 isn't as powerful as the Tiger 2 gun, you can still put around through that Sherman or that T-34, the range of about 1,500 metres. And they're around in great numbers. They now produce around just over 1,500 Tiger 1s. So this is Tiger that causes the consternation of life. This is the thing that inspired Tiger phobia in Allied tank crews. Now, you've already got Tiger 1. It's a very, very good heavy tank. The disruption that would cause to not do why? You've already got Tiger 1, you then build. I think the simple answer is that Tiger 1 in the Germany's eyes is not necessarily a British product. It is certainly the drivetrain, certainly for Tiger 2, is actually designed is reliable. They are both inclined to break down. Their serviceability, as I said earlier, is not great. Tiger 1 has got a bit of a problem as well. It's got this stuff called Schachtelaufgang. If you look closely at Tiger 1, a mass of overlapping roadworks. That is simplified in Tiger 2. The road wheels are not interleaved anymore, they're just overlapped. And that simplifies matters a little bit. But neither of these things is really anywhere near the reliability of something like the Sherman. And the other problem is there aren't very many. The whole thing about it, they managed to build just under 1,500 Tiger 1s. Not quite 500 Tiger 2s in Tigers. Now, when you look behind me, you've got evidence of what won the war. T-34s. They may not be quite as good, they may not be quite well armoured, they may not have the punching power of other Tigers, but when you can send 5 or 10 Shermans from T-34s out, the conclusion is going to be obvious. That, in a sense, when you're looking at the display we've got here today, that is effectively summing up World War II. You have German high-tech, total lack of mass production, but very, very good quality. But then you've got the US. That effectively is what wins World War II.
I like the way they're training the turret.
What we're going to do now is the remaining tanks, the US tanks and the T-34. I'm going to give you another chance to have a look. You've just seen the Tigers go around. Just make a mental comparison to these fast, light tanks, speedy, reliable Sherman.
Why don't the Germans just give up? They know they're going to lose. Many, many reasons. Some of the young Germans here have been inculcated with the spirit of Nazism. As members of the Hitler Youth, they've been inducted straight into things like the Waffen-SS. Others may be clinging to this idea that Hitler has, if they can make the Allies pay in enough blood for every metre of the fatherland they seize, is that the Western Allies will join up with what's left of the Wehrmacht to drive the Soviet troops out of Eastern Germany. Some may simply be afraid not to fight because they've seen the bodies hanging from telegraph poles with the notices around their necks, this coward refused to fight for the fatherland. There were SS death squads, discipline squads like roving behind the lines. Now, these young Germans here have done their job. They've held the Americans long enough for reinforcements to turn up. So you can see here, it's again a big group of reinforcements. This is not the Panzer Division, this is the sort of firepower of the Kampfgruppe. In front, we have an SD-222, light armoured car, did great service in the Western Desert, the Royal armed with the 20mm cannon, instead of being able to be looking by the stage. They're pleased to see the big bow in the middle. To the rear, we have a Hanomag half-track 251 personnel carrier, but in the middle, of course, they've got their trump card, this Kampfgruppe. They've got a King Tiger, a Tiger II. And yeah, you can see that's a fairly intimidating bit of kit. Now, the Tiger II was issued to elite forces only, so the chances are then that the young men manning that Tiger II are again probably Waffen-SS, because one of the Waffen-SS Panzer units split up from their fellows acting as the fire support for this particular Kampfgruppe. In the rear, the half-track, well, I'm now pretty sure that these German troops are, the foot soldiers are Panzer Grenadiers, because only the Panzer Grenadiers had access to this kind of armoured support, this kind of armoured transport. The average Wehrmacht soldier would go to war on his own 2 feet and be supplied from horse-drawn wagons. So the Hanomag is mounting a couple of heavy machine guns. An MG-34 and MG-42. Each one of those capable of laying down somewhere in the region of 1,200 miles per minute. That's capable of dominating the battlefield. The problem is, you're firing 1,200 rounds a minute, you're going to get through your ammunition very quickly. And it's not guaranteed you'll get this full resupply. Now, the King Tiger is taking up a tactical position here to cover potential approach of the Amis, the Americans. This is a real threat. That Tiger is capable of taking out anything that the Allies have 2 kilometres away. It's very, very powerful. It's also very, very heavily armed. It's going to take something to penetrate that heavy armour. Advantage the Allies had is almost complete air superiority. The Luftwaffe has been great. In fact, the Germans had other dark little drone waves at each other. If you look into the sky, you see an aeroplane, and it's brown, it's British. If you look into the sky, you see an aeroplane, it's silver, it's American. If you look into the sky, you see an aeroplane, and there, it's German. That's the kind of car military humour. They knew full well that Tiger crew know full well that the biggest threat are the so-called hypersonic, unionic airboats, things like British typhoons, American thunderbolts. The British typhoon pilot quotes in his memoirs that underneath his wings he had the firepower of broadside from a light cruiser. That will deal with one of these. You're getting a good view of both the camouflage on the lighter armoured vehicles, the use of natural camouflage to break up the outline and primarily to protect them from air attack, but also the zimmerit of the King Tiger. That rippled effect you'll see on the armour is a paste applied to the outside with a view to preventing the use of magnetic mines. The Germans were convinced that the Allies would be rushing up to the tank, slapping a magnetic mine on the side, and then taking it out that way. Now, we did actually have magnetic mines, a so-called limpet mine, which would have done the job, but it was never done, it was never attempted. The Russians tried it once and it failed, but throughout the war, the Germans persisted in slapping the zimmerit on their vehicles. Now, here we can see he's got an MP40 submachine pistol. I can see there's a Russian. Have I seen? No. Some of them may be armed with Russian weapons, which have been brought back from the Eastern Front. But like the Panzergruppe itself, in many respects, their weapons. The Americans had a Maxim, not a Maxim gun, had a Maxim. Find them, fix them, flank them, finish them. Find them, well they've done that, or rather they've blundered into them. Fix them, that's what they're trying to do now. There they are, the Germans are withdrawing to a village nearby. At the moment the Tiger is not doing the sort of things we would have expected. The dominant member of the battlefield at the moment. Of your own, and it looks as if the cavalry has just arrived. 4A1, and then 4A2, then 4A276. The slightly older design, the M4A1 is not going to be able to cope with the King Tiger by itself. The 75mm on that Sherman is not capable of penetrating virtually any of the armour of the King Tiger. But the is capable. So now the dynamic is shifting a little bit. Water's still putting out lines to follow that village. Oh, there we go. It's also, we've got smoke banks put down. This is to mark the position of the American infantry. If there are any Allied aircraft in the air, we don't want them bombing the American position, so they're marking their front line with coloured smoke. Now remember, some of these German troops, some of these Panzer Grenadiers might be 16 or 17 years old. They might never have been in combat before. They've just gone through a terrifying, gut-wrenching experience. Some of them have been told they'll be shot when they go into the surrender. Others have decided that surrender's the only obvious thing to do. There goes a jeep with a 30 caliber mounted. Try and put yourself in the mind of one of these young Americans from Wisconsin, Arkansas, never been out of his state before, let alone overseas, thrust into this visceral battle for a continent. Put yourself in the mind of the young Germans. They've been shielded to an extent from what the Nazi regime has done. But they know that these Americans, particularly if they recognise the flashes, they know that they would have landed in Omaha, they'd have been struggled across Omaha. But now, firing on the King Tiger. It's been bracketed. And again, remember, the crew in there, they may only be young teenagers. These are not necessarily hardened panzer men. They all gone on the Eastern Front or somewhere else. These could be who've done a couple of weeks training in a much smaller vehicle and then been put into, it's like learning to drive in a mini car and being put into a 40-ton Arctic or semi, if you're one of our American friends. It's difficult, right? So they may have not been up to the task that they've been given. In fact, our version of the King Tiger, so-called Henschel turreted one in the main museum, that was lost not to any action, but to the very fact that the crew basically broke it because they were inexperienced, shredded the gearbox, and had to abandon it. So that's why it's sitting relatively intact in the museum. Now it seems that wise counsels have prevailed. The Germans have been taken into custody. Having been relieved, I suspect, of things like watches, cameras, and also any documentation that might be useful to command any intelligence use.